At a faded corner booth, two kids quietly counted a mound of change, nervous, hoping to stretch their few dollars for a single slice of pie before their aunt's night shift ended. To the waitress, it seemed like just another modest family trying to make ends meet, but then she spotted the glint of dog tags tangled in the coins. Linda paused, tray in hand, sensing something deeper than hunger, not realizing how much would change in the next few minutes. If you love stories about everyday heroes and the power of community, make sure you hit that subscribe button because this one's going to warm your heart. Let me tell you about Linda and what happened at Miller's Diner. So picture this scene. It's Miller's Diner on the edge of town. The kind of place that's been around since the 1950s and looks like it hasn't changed much. Red vinyl booths, black and white checkered floors, and those fluorescent lights that buzz just loud enough to remind you they're there. It's not fancy, but it's honest. And for a lot of people in this small town, it's become something like a second home. Linda Martinez has been working the evening shift there for 8 years now. She's 43, a single mom with 2 teenagers of her own, and if you asked anyone in town to describe her, they'd probably use words like warm and genuine and the kind of person who remembers your order before you even sit down. See, Linda isn't just a waitress. She's like the unofficial therapist, cheerleader, and sometimes surrogate mom for half the people who walk through those doors. She knows which customers are going through divorces, which ones just lost their jobs, and which ones just need someone to listen while they drink their coffee and try to figure out their lives. Working at Miller's wasn't exactly Linda's life plan. She'd started there temporarily after her divorce, just something to pay the bills while she figured out what came next. But somewhere along the way, she realized she was exactly where she needed to be. There's something about serving people food, about being part of the rhythms of their daily lives, that gave her a sense of purpose she'd never found anywhere else. Her boss, Sam Kowalski, had bought the diner 15 years ago after retiring from a career as a mechanic. Sam was this gruff, no-nonsense guy who looked like he could fix anything with duct tape and determination. But underneath that tough exterior, he had a soft spot for people going through hard times. He and Linda made a good team. She handled the emotional side of customer service, and he made sure everyone was fed well and treated fairly. The evening shift was Linda's domain. She knew all the regulars, the construction workers who came in after long days, the high school kids who pooled their money for milkshakes and fries, the elderly couples who'd been coming to the same booth for decades. Each table had its own story, and Linda was part of all of them. This particular Tuesday evening started like any other. The dinner rush was winding down, and Linda was refilling coffee cups and clearing tables, already mentally preparing for the slower hours ahead. That's when she noticed them, 2 kids sitting in the far corner booth, hunched over the table like they were protecting something precious. The boy looked like he was about 12, with that serious expression kids get when they're trying to act older than they are. His sister was maybe 8, all big eyes and fidgety energy, but she was trying to stay still and quiet. Both of them were wearing clothes that were clean but clearly hand-me-downs. Shirts a little too big, jeans that had been hemmed multiple times. What caught Linda's attention wasn't just their appearance, though. It was the way they were sitting, close together, protective, like they were used to looking out for each other. And they were counting money, not bills, but change. Lots and lots of change, spread out on the table in careful piles. Linda had seen this before, families stretching every dollar, kids who understood money in a way that broke your heart. She'd been there herself, especially in those first months after her divorce when every trip to the grocery store required careful calculations. She approached their table with her usual warm smile, carrying a pot of coffee even though she knew they weren't old enough to drink it. "Hey there," she said gently. "Can I get you guys something to drink while you're deciding what to order?" The boy looked up, and Linda saw something in his eyes, not just poverty, but a kind of weariness that no 12-year-old should have. "Could we just have 2 Cokes, please?" he asked politely. "We're waiting for our Aunt Jenny. She's picking us up when her shift ends." "Of course, sweetie," Linda said, noting the relief in the boy's voice when he mentioned their aunt. At least they weren't alone. Take your time deciding what you want to eat." As she walked away to get their drinks, Linda found herself glancing back at their table. The kids had gone back to counting their change, whispering to each other in voices too low for her to hear. Something about the scene tugged at her heart in a way she couldn't quite explain. Linda brought back their Cokes and set them down carefully. "There you go. Still deciding on food?" The little girl nodded eagerly. "We want to share a piece of pie," she announced. Then immediately looked at her brother like she'd said something wrong. "Apple pie," the boy added quickly. "Just one piece." "We can share." That's when Linda saw it. As the boy reached across the table to organize their change, something metallic caught the light. Dog tags. Military dog tags, hanging from a chain around his neck, partially hidden under his oversized t-shirt. Linda felt a little flutter of recognition, but she couldn't quite place why. The name on the tags was partially visible. She could make out Dawson stamped into the metal. Something about that name rang a bell, but she couldn't remember where she'd heard it before. "I'll get you that pie," Linda said, but instead of going straight to the kitchen, she made a detour to the counter where Sam was cleaning the grill. "Hey Sam," she said quietly. "Do you know any Dawsons around here? Local family?" Sam looked up from his cleaning, his weathered face thoughtful. "Dawson? Why do you ask?" Linda nodded toward the corner booth. "Two kids over there, and the boy's wearing dog tags with that name. Something about it seems familiar, but I can't place it." Sam wiped his hands on his apron and pulled out his phone. After a minute of scrolling, his expression grew solemn. "Linda," he said quietly, "I think those might be Mike Dawson's kids." "Mike Dawson? Marine. Lost him about a year and a half ago in Afghanistan. I remember reading about it in the paper. Left behind two kids and a sister who was going to take care of them." Sam's voice was gentle but sad. "If that's them, they've been through hell." Linda felt her heart sink. No wonder those kids looked like they were carrying the weight of the world. No wonder that boy had that serious, too old expression in his eyes. Linda took a deep breath and grabbed a generous slice of apple pie from the display case. Sam caught her eye and nodded. She knew without asking that this one was on the house, and probably anything else those kids wanted. She walked back to the booth, carrying the pie and trying to figure out how to handle this delicately. These weren't just hungry kids, they were grieving kids. Kids who'd lost their father and were trying to navigate a world that had suddenly become much scarier and more uncertain. "Here's your pie," Linda said, setting it down with two forks. Then, after a moment's hesitation, she slid into the booth across from them. "Mind if I sit for a minute? It's been a long shift." The kids exchanged glances, but nodded. Up close, Linda could see the dog tags more clearly. They were worn smooth in places, like they'd been handled a lot. The boy noticed her looking and instinctively pulled his shirt up to cover them. "Those your dad's?" Linda asked gently, nodding toward where the tags had been visible. The boy froze, his eyes wide. For a moment, Linda worried she'd pushed too hard, too fast. But then he nodded slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Aunt Jenny gave them to me today," he said. It would have been Dad's birthday." Linda felt tears prick at her eyes. "What was your dad's name, honey?" "Mike," the little girl piped up before her brother could stop her. "Daddy Mike. He was a Marine, and he was really brave. And he loved apple pie just like this." The boy, Linda still didn't know his name, reached over and gently broke off a piece of the pie, setting it on a napkin. "I'm saving this for Aunt Jenny," he explained. "She's working late, but she likes pie too." Over the next few minutes, Linda slowly and carefully drew out their story. The boy's name was Tyler, and his sister was Emma. Their dad, Marine Sergeant Mike Dawson, had been killed by an IED while on patrol in Afghanistan 18 months ago. Their mom had died when Emma was just a baby, so when Mike died, their world completely fell apart. Aunt Jenny, Mike's younger sister, had stepped up immediately. She'd moved across the country, left her own life behind, to take care of Tyler and Emma, but it hadn't been easy. Jenny worked 2 jobs just to keep them afloat, a day shift at a medical office, an evening cleaning shift at an office building downtown. "Jenny's really trying," Tyler said, his voice filled with a maturity that broke Linda's heart. "But everything's just hard. The apartment costs a lot, and Emma needs new shoes, and the car's making weird noises. But Aunt Jenny said we could come here tonight, Emma added brightly. She gave us money for pie because it's Daddy's birthday, and she said we could wait here until she picks us up after work. Linda looked at the pile of change on the table, mostly quarters, dimes, and nickels that had clearly been collected over time. Jenny had probably scraped together every bit of spare change she could find to give these kids a small treat on what must be an incredibly difficult day. "She's picking you up here?" Linda asked. Tyler nodded. "At 9:30, when the office building closes. She said it was okay to wait here as long as we ordered something." Linda glanced at the clock. It was only 7:15. These kids had been planning to sit in this booth for over 2 hours, nursing one piece of pie and 2 Cokes, just so their aunt wouldn't have to worry about them while she worked. What happened next is the kind of thing that restores your faith in humanity, because Linda didn't make a big show of it, didn't announce to the whole diner what was happening. Instead, she did something much more powerful. She treated Tyler and Emma like family. First, she made sure they had a proper dinner. "You know what?" she said. "Sam made way too much meatloaf tonight, and it's just going to go to waste. You'd be doing us a favor by helping us eat it." She brought them plates piled high with meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans, refusing to let them pay for any of it. While they ate, Linda made a few quiet phone calls. First, she called her friend Maria, who worked with a local veterans support group. Then she called her neighbor Bob, who ran a small auto repair shop and had a soft spot for families in need. She wasn't trying to solve all their problems overnight. She was just quietly building a network of people who could help. Sam, meanwhile, had noticed the interaction and came over to introduce himself. "Your dad was a hero," he told Tyler seriously. "And heroes' families always have a place here." It turned out Sam was a Vietnam veteran himself, and he understood something about loss and service and the way communities need to take care of their own. He sat with the kids for a while, sharing stories about his own service and asking Tyler about school and Emma about her favorite subjects. Other customers began to notice too, but not in an intrusive way. Mrs. Peterson, who came in every Tuesday for coffee and pie, quietly asked Linda if the children would like some books. She'd been cleaning out her grandson's room and had boxes of age-appropriate novels and picture books. The construction workers at the counter, overhearing part of the conversation, left an extra-large tip with specific instructions that it should go toward whatever those kids need. Not everyone in the diner that night was automatically sympathetic, though. There was a table of high school kids, probably juniors or seniors, who'd been watching Tyler and Emma count their change earlier. Linda overheard one of them make a comment about penny pinchers and saw Tyler's face flush with embarrassment. Now, Linda could have marched over there and given those kids a lecture about empathy and respect, but she'd learned over the years that sometimes the best lessons come through example, not confrontation. Instead, she asked Tyler if he'd help her with something. "I've got to organize the supply closet," she said, "and I could really use someone with good organizational skills. Would you mind giving me a hand?" While Tyler was in the back helping Linda sort through boxes of napkins and condiments, she told him something important. "You know, Tyler, there are always going to be people who don't understand what you're going through. People who haven't lost someone they love, who haven't had to worry about money or take care of family members. That doesn't make them bad people. It just means they haven't learned yet how to see past their own experiences." "But it still hurts," Tyler said quietly. "It does hurt," Linda agreed. "But you know what I've learned? The best way to handle people like that is to just keep being yourself. Keep being kind. Keep taking care of your sister. Keep honoring your dad's memory. Eventually, most people figure out what really matters." When they came back out, Linda made a point of introducing Tyler and Emma to the teenagers. "This is Tyler and Emma," she said warmly. "They're regulars here now, and Tyler's been helping me organize the supply closet. Emma's an artist. She's been drawing pictures on her napkins, and they're amazing." The shift in dynamic was immediate. Suddenly, Tyler and Emma weren't those poor kids with the change. They were Linda's friends, people she clearly cared about. The teenagers' whole attitude changed, and by the end of the evening, One of them had offered to help Emma with a math problem she was working on for homework. At exactly 9:30, a tired-looking woman in scrubs pushed through the diner's front door. Linda knew immediately that this was Aunt Jenny. She had the same dark hair as Tyler and Emma, and the same serious eyes that seemed to carry more weight than they should. Jenny looked around the diner, spotted the kids, and hurried over to their booth. "Hey guys, sorry I'm a little late." "How was—" She stopped mid-sentence when she saw the empty plates in front of Tyler and Emma, the books Mrs. Peterson had brought over, the drawing Emma had made on her placemat. "We had dinner," Emma announced happily, "and Linda let Tyler help in the supply closet, and Sam told us stories about when he was in the army, and Mrs. Peterson gave us books, and I drew you a picture." Jenny looked confused and a little worried. "Dinner? But I only gave you enough money for pie." Linda appeared at the table as if by magic. "You must be Jenny," she said warmly. "I'm Linda. Tyler and Emma have been such wonderful company tonight. Sam and I were hoping you'd let us treat them to dinner. It's the least we can do for a military family." Jenny's eyes filled with tears. That's incredibly kind, but I can't let you do that. We can pay for whatever they ate." "Ma'am," Sam said, walking over from behind the counter, "with all due respect, you're not paying for anything tonight. Your brother served our country, and that means something here." Jenny looked like she was struggling between gratitude and pride. Linda understood that feeling. She'd been there herself, when accepting help felt like admitting failure. "Jenny," Linda said gently, "can I tell you something? 8 years ago, I was sitting in a booth just like this one, with my own 2 kids, counting change and trying to figure out how to make it last until my next paycheck. A waitress named Dorothy brought us extra food by mistake and refused to let me pay for it. She told me that someday, when I was in a position to help someone else, I should just pass it forward." She paused, glancing at Tyler and Emma. Tonight felt like that someday. Over the next few weeks, something beautiful started happening. It wasn't dramatic or sudden. It was the kind of gradual, organic community building that happens when good people recognize a need and quietly work together to meet it. Maria from the Veteran Support Group connected Jenny with resources she didn't know existed: assistance with housing costs, help navigating the VA benefits system, and a support group for military families dealing with loss. Bob the mechanic took a look at Jenny's car and fixed the weird noises for the cost of parts only, then set up a payment plan so she wouldn't have to pay all at once. Linda's church, where she'd been a quiet member for years, started a small fund to help with school supplies and clothes for Tyler and Emma. Not a big public charity drive, but a simple collection where people could contribute what they could afford without making a big deal about it. The high school kids, who'd made the penny pincher comment, became some of Tyler and Emma's biggest supporters. Linda had continued her gentle education, and they'd started volunteering with a local youth program. One of them, a girl named Sarah, even became Emma's unofficial big sister, helping with homework and teaching her how to braid friendship bracelets. Most importantly, Miller's Diner became a safe haven. Tyler and Emma started coming in after school sometimes, doing homework in their corner booth while Jenny worked her evening shift. Sam would make sure they had snacks, Linda would help with math problems, and the other regulars treated them like family. The dog tags never left Tyler's neck, but as the weeks went by, Linda noticed that he stopped hiding them under his shirt. Instead, he wore them openly, and when people asked about them, he'd tell them about his dad with pride instead of sadness. One evening, about a month after that first night, Tyler was showing the tags to a new customer, an elderly man who'd served in Korea. They were comparing their different service experiences, talking about honor and sacrifice and what it means to serve your country. Linda watched from across the diner, and it struck her that this was what healing looked like. Not forgetting the pain or pretending everything was fine, but finding a way to carry the loss while still being open to joy and connection and hope. Emma, meanwhile, had started drawing pictures of her dad, not sad pictures, but happy ones. Pictures of him in his uniform, pictures of their family before everything changed, pictures of him in heaven eating apple pie with the angels. She'd give these drawings to other customers sometimes, especially other veterans, and they'd always accept them like they were receiving something precious. The story of Tyler, Emma, and Jenny spread through the community in the quiet way that meaningful stories do. Not through social media or news articles, but through conversations between neighbors, through the connections that form when people see others acting with kindness and decide they want to be part of something good. The teenagers who'd learned empathy from Linda started a peer mentoring program at school. Mrs. Peterson organized a book drive for kids in foster care and transitional housing. Bob the mechanic started offering reduced-rate repairs for military families. Sam began hosting a monthly Veterans and Families breakfast at the diner, where service members and their loved ones could gather, share stories, and support each other. It wasn't formal or official, just pancakes and coffee, and the understanding that some experiences can only be shared with people who've lived them. Linda found herself becoming something of an unofficial coordinator for all these efforts, not because she sought out the role, but because people trusted her. They knew she'd listen without judgment, help without making a big show of it, and always put the needs of families first. By the time Tyler's 13th birthday rolled around, the Dawson family's life had stabilized in ways that had seemed impossible 8 months earlier. Jenny had been able to cut back to one job after getting approved for additional VA benefits. Tyler had joined the school's ROTC program and was excelling in his studies. Emma was taking art classes at the community center and had made friends with kids her own age. But the most important change was less visible. It was the way they carried themselves. The desperate, protective tension that had marked their first night at Miller's Diner had been replaced by something that looked like hope. For Tyler's birthday, Linda and Sam threw a small party at the diner. Nothing fancy, just cake and ice cream and the found family that had grown up around them over the past months. The veterans group was there, the teenagers who'd become Emma's friends, Mrs. Peterson with more books, Bob with stories about the classic car he was restoring. As Tyler blew out his candles, Linda found herself thinking about how much had changed since that night when she'd first spotted the glint of dog tags among a pile of change. She'd approached that booth thinking she was just being kind to some hungry kids. She'd had no idea she was about to become part of something that would change not just their lives, but her own and the whole community's. The thing about acts of kindness is that they're contagious. When people see others being generous, being open, being willing to help without expecting anything in return, it gives them permission to do the same. It reminds them that we're all connected, that someone else's pain doesn't have to be someone else's problem, that small actions can have enormous impacts. Linda learned that being a waitress wasn't just about taking orders and serving food, it was about being present in people's lives during the moments when they needed someone to see them, to acknowledge their struggles, to remind them that they weren't alone. Tyler learned that accepting help didn't make him weak or his family a burden. It made him part of a community where people looked out for each other. Emma learned that her dad's memory could be a source of strength and connection, not just sadness. And Jenny learned that sometimes the best thing you can do for your family is to let other people care about them too. These days, if you walk into Miller's Diner on a Tuesday evening, you'll probably find Tyler and Emma in their corner booth, doing homework or drawing pictures or just talking with whoever happens to be sitting nearby. The dog tags still hang around Tyler's neck, but now they're a conversation starter rather than something to hide. Linda still works the evening shift, still remembers everyone's orders, still has that warm smile that makes people feel at home. But now she also coordinates the monthly veterans breakfasts, helps connect military families with resources, and mentors other service industry workers who want to make a difference in their communities. The pile of change from that first night is long gone, but its impact remains. It taught everyone who witnessed it that dignity doesn't depend on how much money you have, that kindness doesn't require grand gestures, and that sometimes the smallest acts of recognition, seeing dog tags among pennies, remembering a fallen soldier's name, treating children with respect, can change everything. The dog tags still catch the light sometimes when Tyler moves, still remind everyone who sees them of sacrifice and service, and the families who carry on when heroes fall. But now they're also a reminder of something else, the way communities can come together, the way strangers can become family, and the way one waitress's decision to pay attention, to care, to act with kindness, can create ripples that spread far beyond anything she could have imagined. And at Miller's Diner, it's understood that no service, military or otherwise, goes unnoticed, and no family faces their struggles alone. If this story touched your heart, make sure you subscribe for more incredible tales of everyday heroes and community kindness. Have you ever experienced the power of small acts of kindness? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.